All right, welcome to the first episode of a currently unnamed podcast. I'm here with Samir and Brian. I'm just going to introduce myself. This is going to be the first episode of a series of podcasts in which we go over multiple esports leagues. We're going to chop it up. So if you're interested in, let's say, just the COD World League or just CSGO, we're going to cover all different esports, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yes,
Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Brian. I've been gaming for God knows how long. I started off trick shotting back in, I think when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And now I own an esports organization called Cursed Ascension. I started that in 2016, so I was 15 years old and doing it today. Been to plenty of events, major, and all that stuff, so yeah.
Now, what games are you guys in?
Currently we're in CSGO. CSGO is probably one of our biggest because we've had about 2 or 3 really good rosters that have dominated in ESEA. We also have one signed Fortnite player at the moment who played at an event yesterday, placed second place, which is actually very good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so that was good, and that was actually our first Fortnite LAN event, so it was nice seeing that.
Getting into it. And Samir?
I'm Samir. I've been gaming ever since I could fucking remember.
Yep. Long time.
Came with these two, Ryan and Anthony. Anthony's been my pal.
What games are you into?
CSGO, League of Legends, Call of Duty, Overwatch. We're gonna bring it all to you guys.
So yeah, we have a nice wide array of different games that we're interested in or play. So first off, I think we're just gonna talk about the COD World League. Seeing it's pretty monumental watching all the franchising, whether it be the Overwatch League, the COD World League. I think that's really where the esports scene is going.
Yeah.
With these franchises.
I'm pretty sure Overwatch took the first step into franchising, if I'm not wrong.
They did, yeah. I was actually at the live press conference at BlizzCon when they first announced franchising, and I was kind of confused. I was like, what does that even mean? But I think...
How much money,
the buy-ins?
Yeah.
So the buy-ins, if I'm not mistaken, the first season was 12 teams, $10 or $15 million, and the expansion teams, as they've since been called, the 8 teams that were added on to round it out to 20 was I think in the $20 or $30 million range.
Wow.
So,
but the COD League's not any better, right?
I think COD is like 13 million, and I get tons of emails and DMs a day, just other stuff like that. People are like, "Oh, why aren't you in Call of Duty?" I'm like, if you want, it's like you could go into like these amateur leagues and do like LAN events where you just just do whatever and kind of play local events and do that, but it's just completely different with COD this year. Like, to me, it just completely changed. BO4 was the last hype I had for COD. Like, I had no hype going into this COD at all.
That's understandable.
I think from a less esports perspective, and to shift it more into the actual game itself. I mean, personally, I grew up on Call of Duty. I'm sure you guys.
Same, yeah,
I know so many people, and I kind of lost faith for a couple years there, just seeing what direction they were taking it. Personally, the biggest thing was movement, because the middle games from probably post Black Ops 2 to only probably 2 years ago, when they focused on that high mobility and the suits, that just lost me, because it didn't feel like Call of Duty anymore.
Right.
I mean, from a trick shotter standpoint, like when Advanced Warfare was first introduced, we were like, holy, we can jump up so far, do more spins, and do all this stuff,
then
right? Then it was just really,
exactly.
it was at a point, and I forget what was the next COD. I know Infinite Warfare was screwed up. No one liked that game.
And then you had World War II.
World War II was all right.
Well, and then I felt the biggest thing, because my older brothers got me into COD, and COD was one of those things where it's like survival of the fittest. You either win your gunfights or you don't.
Right.
And I felt they took the route that a lot of games are taking nowadays, where they just they played to the lowest common denominator, because they were giving you score streaks for free, basically, in the Black Ops games when they had those abilities. And man, they just felt so cheap. At least back in the day, if you got killed by dogs in World at War, you knew that person just dropped an 18 bomb to get those dogs.
And not the specialist, but I know what you're talking about, where it was, I think they did it in MW3, where if you die, you still get points up to a counter UAV, and but there were still good streaks. Like there was like not the Osprey Gunner, but like there was like a Juggernaut type of thing.
Oh yeah,
And MW3, that was like
MW2 and MW3.
one of those score. They're called score streaks.
score
I think.
streaks. Yeah.
Yeah, over the course, I just feel like those competitive games, especially shooters, we're seeing like a lack of. It's like less. I don't even know what you call it. Just like not merit based, like rewards. Like you're seeing people, and like that kind of the transition into battle royales that we've seen to kind of change up the subject. That was one of the things that I was kind of confused about because I was like, hold on, like you're gonna go loot, but like let's say I go spend 15 minutes looting and I get shit guns.
Yeah, and then
But this other kid who just happened to pick up, what was it, the orange guns, the orange guns, whether it be Apex or PUBG, any of those
Fortnite,
games.
right?
There were some guns that just slayed, and it was like I felt like it was just RNG. It was just up to
Yeah,
right.
It's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
And I think the transition we're kind of seeing a transition away. Not necessarily away from battle royales, but I just know, like, culturally, at least being fresh out of high school, I mean, bro, Fortnite was the shit.
Yeah.
Yo, Fortnite made such a huge impact in the world.
Did you see Ninja? Guys.
Yeah, he
like,
got his
come on.
own skin. Like,
Guys.
it's just...
Bro, I was working at Kohl's. He had fucking merch. at
Exactly.
Kohl's.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
He has his own
loved-
shoes.
He's
got his
crazy.
own shoes.
He has... Actually, fun fact, and I swear on everything here, I'll pull up pictures. Everyone's like, he's the first person to get his own shoes, right? Incorrect.
Yeah, definitely. Not.
My friend Merc Anthony, do you know the team Elevate?
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, he was in Elevate as a streamer. He was in Dare as a streamer. Actually, did you guys know? Do you know Dare Rising?
Yeah.
That team ended.
Did they?
It ended like last week, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Did you know what happened? Was
yeah, bought out.
I really don't know. It wasn't bought out, but it just kind of ended. Nothing word on that. I tweeted at Tanzer, the owner of the team. He responded to me. He's just kind of doing his own thing. He's dating like one of the old lead streamer there, but I don't know what they're doing. But yeah. So as I was saying about what was that?
shoes.
Shoes. Yeah. So my friend came out with his own shoes.
Wow.
So yeah,
They take off?
I know he made a good amount of sales. Like he's not the biggest streamer, but he's partnered with like G Fuel.
Right.
That's dope.
Yeah, like he's doing amazing for himself. I mean, he has a ridiculous amount of money. He has a girlfriend. He's doing really good for himself. He's not the biggest streamer, but he has the numbers, right?
He's doing alright.
But he came out with his own shoes. He made a good amount of sales on them, but it wasn't to a ninja extent, which is sad, because Ninja's now like the first creator to get shoes, and it just sucks because I know I have a picture of them. Like I know he has the shoes and all that stuff. It just sucks that he didn't get credit for
the
them.
spotlight either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To bring it back, I always felt like the impact that Fortnite made, like on a cultural level, I feel like I always compared it to like Minecraft. It was the first game that really broke the mold, and whether you had never picked up a video game, never owned a console, never PC, like had a PC gaming setup, like you knew what Minecraft was.
Right.
Even if you were in your 60s, like the boomers knew what Minecraft was. And Fortnite kind of managed to break the mold and do the same thing. Like, do you remember the cringy ass video of Ninja at New Year's Eve going into 2019?
That was great. It was just no one was moving.
No one was doing the floss. That shit's crazy. But then, I'm not sure exactly what, at least with Ninja, like what direction he's going. Because I feel like Mixer, like, bro, Mixer was around for like 4 years before I ever knew.
Well,
I saw something. It was around estimated $20 to $30 million.
Yeah, he
Mixer.
definitely got bought out. So did Shroud. Shroud and Ninja.
Shroud went to Mixer too now.
And a couple other big streamers. They definitely got bought out.
I'm sure Mixer.
Do you really think those big streamers would leave for free?
No,
hell no.
No
They had some compensation.
So to bring it back a little bit. So what are your favorite franchises so far with the COD World League? What teams you rooting for?
As a New Yorker, gotta go for New York.
You think so?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. I mean, the Subliners, I actually want to give away from them. Their first giveaway.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, so I got an Elgato sent out of my house, but I'm a Huntsman guy. I mean, I've been watching Optic for all my life, and you got Scumpy on there, Hex is owning them, all that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
you can't. Oh, you know what's crazy? I actually didn't know that Hex was involved in the management side.
Yes.
Yeah, good for him. Because I mean, personally, I always felt like, man, like Optic was like my first love in esports.
Optic
man.
and FaZe.
I was watching.
I was watching the beef with those two.
They go far back.
Yeah, so these are the shoes.
Wow, those are
Yeah,
crazy.
they're real. Like they're.
We're gonna have to.
dope.
That's his shoes, yeah. And like
That's
we
fresh.
tweeted at so Keemstar put it out. It was the first creator, right? And we responded.
you're
He
like-
responded. He's like, "Bro, I got my own shoes here." I feel so bad. It's just like that sucks.
Got miscredited. But yeah, I know like with Optic, that whole situation, like me and my brothers were devastated. Like seeing where it all ended up, like it almost didn't feel like real. We were like,
Right.
bro, like how?
Oh, but
how
Hex
could
is he's sitting on money now though.
Hex is set, but I think from like a fan standpoint, like
Oh,
you
it's-
couldn't
it's
help,
heartbreaking.
you couldn't help but just feel like upset
Right.
about how it all ended. Because like watching Hex gradually lose
Something he
control
started.
over the team,
Yeah.
and then see like where the team is basically like a shell of its
Right.
former self. Especially because I remember I was watching the opening week of the COD World League, and I'm sitting there watching these franchise teams, and then they bring the rosters up or the franchises
So
up,
weird.
and there's an Optic Gaming. And
There
I'm
is.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, how is that still
So
there?
Optic Gaming is their only COD now. That's it. There's nothing else on
Well,
Optic.
they
Now,
were kind
the-
of shit at the other.
No,
games.
bro. Not that it's the biggest game, but Gears of War.
Oh.
Bro, they had arguably like the most dominant Gears of War.
Totally
team.
forgot about that game.
They oh yeah, of course.
I haven't touched Gears of War. I have the Xbox.
Did
I have the Xbox One X like Gears of War edition with like all 5 Gears of Wars. Never touched them.
Yeah, I never got into because it's a what is it? It's a third person cover based
Yeah,
shooter.
exactly.
That just never really caught my
I don't know.
caught my attention. But I know personally, the bringing back to the COD World League, I know watching Scump like still just kill it. Like he is. I've never lost faith in Scump. Like
He's doing good for himself too. Like personally, like he got his own house. He has a girlfriend.
yeah,
They're
bro,
living
that's
together,
awesome
like,
to see.
and he's still making his money. He's still doing what he loves, playing COD, streaming, and doing his thing.
Well, yeah, I think like the coolest thing is seeing where the OGs from the Optic like org ended up.
Yeah.
Like seeing all those guys.
Yeah.
like,
Right.
They had I forgot what it was on Twitter. It was like the old men of Optic. Something
Like
like,
the
that. It was
OGs?
like the very OGs of like Optic, and they had like the little group going,
Well,
stuff like that.
to bring it like more broadly, I think like one of the most inspiring things in the last few years, like the elephant in the room of the esports organizations, is 100 Thieves. Like,
Oh,
bro,
dude.
there's
Don't get me started.
nothing is
'cause
more inspiring
Now we're
than
gonna have
that,
to talk
man.
about League because more
bro,
like
seeing what Neachot has been able to do, like, bro,
Have
he
you seen
got
the-
he got
dude.
investment from Drake.
Yeah.
Do you
Come
see
on.
Did you see their
Their
the
facility?
cache?
Holy
Their
shit!
facilities
Bro,
are amazing.
It's insane.
Insane.
Like
And I'm proud. I'm actually proud. I'm
He-
so proud of them.
he deserves it.
Yeah, definitely. Shifting over to League, Yasuo, he's number 1 for a champion called Yasuo in
Yeah.
the game. He got signed to 100 Thieves, the academy team,
Right.
but like he definitely deserves to be on the main
So-
roster.
Even broader, I think like one of the most fascinating things, especially with franchising, is you're seeing like these B leagues develop where
Yeah.
the path to pro, as they call it in the
I-
Overwatch
It's
League,
like it's like
They
the
have that
NBA
with
G
Call of
League.
Duty now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
like the
they-
NBA G League.
it's great to see like an actual concrete path from amateur to pro,
Yeah.
because back in the day it used to just be
Random.
LAN events
Right.
and you really
You
just
get
hope
spotted,
you got your
yeah.
spot. But nowadays like there's so many outlets of professional gaming. Like I've always said, in my second semester of college right now, like I missed the ball by 5 years of collegiate esports being a main stage event. Because I've done tons of research and like I want to say as of last year, there was 45 colleges in the U.S. that offered scholarships for esports. Like it's
That's
that
crazy.
number is only ever going to get higher.
Right.
Like especially like for example NYIT local here in New York.
I think Full Sail. I think it's called. Right.
Also as well Full Sail. NYIT has a full facility. What they have. I think it's 4 or 5 games that they run, so it's not just they're specialized. So it's not just like, oh, we only play League at this school, or we only
Right.
or we only do that, which is how the beginning.
Mhm.
I learned through my brother's friend. Like, the beginning of collegiate esports used to be very specialized and stringent teams, but now they're confident that they can build facilities for
And that's awesome.
So like,
PC banks.
I feel like
and
people
whatever
go
you
to
wanna play.
I feel like people go to college, right? They're like, all right, here's my major. Let me make my money, do this and that. So let me ask you. So they're going to like, I personally don't know this. So they're going to college for this esports stuff, right? How are they like? What are they learning? What are they doing there? Do you know?
So the one thing I would hope is, I know, kind of off topic, but when it comes to college sports, like traditional sports, one of the biggest problems is that if you're
Academics.
competing at a D1 level, you're more of an athlete than you are
A scholar.
a scholar, exactly. And so they have these controversies where they call them paper classes, where they basically just feed them like bullshit courses that they basically, like, somebody else does the work for
Right.
them, and then they just get the credit at the end of the semester. So I really hope, from like a public viewpoint, like that doesn't end up happening in collegiate esports, because that just doesn't look good for the scene.
Right.
But it's kind of a mixed bag, because if you think about it, like, that means that if they can get collegiate esports to that level, like, that means that it's at a high echelon, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they actually are competing, and the level of competition and like passion in it is to the degree where they'd almost have to be more of a player than a
I only
than a
found
student.
out. I only found out about like esports in colleges last year. So I was in a meeting with whoever, and they added someone. They were talking to me down in Florida. They wanted me to fly out, talk to this program that they're doing with esports, talk about Cursed, all that stuff, and talk about gaming in general, stuff like that. I don't really know what happened with that, but yeah, I was like, what the hell? Like, schools are doing esports now, and I like looked into it. It was like a real thing. And my girlfriend's sister, I think she does like something with applications at one of the schools over here, and there was like something with esports, stuff like that. It's just like crazy how much it's expanding.
Yeah, so you see, I actually wrote a paper senior year about the expansion of like just the whole industry.
It's a legendary paper.
And
right
it's
there.
my of course the old ass teacher at Kellenberg. It might as well have been Chinese to him, but yeah, no. You see, we were speaking earlier about the sponsors that are coming in. I mean, there are Fortune 500 companies that are sponsoring LAN events. Like, they really understand that there's
money.
there's money and there's eyes,
Yeah,
and that's the
ridiculous.
biggest
And
thing
that's the biggest thing.
that they know that it's swelling like all across the world. I hand to God believe that esports within a decade or two will be at the same level, if not more popular than traditional sports.
Look back 2 decades.
That's
ago.
what they're all saying. Like, all you have to do is point to the economists, and they're all saying, like, hop on the train now, because like it's blasting
Half of these
off.
players' salaries are more than doctors.
Guys,
Honestly,
look
like, they really
look back. We were before we were born, like 25 years ago. How it wasn't even esports; it was just LAN events with
Fun gaming.
Yeah, exactly. And now, like,
There's a
everyone's on it.
serious market.
This
It's in
the scene,
college.
and so to bring it a little bit broader, that path to pro that I was talking about earlier, like collegiate esports is a huge part of that, because then you have kids being brought up, and honestly, the best talent that you see, they probably will skip that stage entirely. But to have that stage there at all, I think fosters just a community around, whether it be any given game or esports in general, where it's like, all right, this is legitimate, this is concrete. Like, oh, I know a kid on my campus who's practicing 5 days a week at the facilities. Like, it's like a ball game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna be respected, hopefully, on that same level. And to see, like, I think the biggest thing about franchising is recognition. Like, I think from an outsider's perspective, like, obviously all three of us are educated on esports and know, like, obviously it's Cloud9, Team Liquid, etc.
Right.
But to someone outside of the sphere of, like, influence, it's not, I feel like it wasn't as easily digestible as, oh, the New York Subliners or the
Right.
Chicago Huntsmen.
I can
You know what I'm
relate
saying?
to that. So it's like, so a small team like us, right? We make a little money off of sponsors here and there. We'll sell, let's say apparel, whatever, Control Freaks, whatever it is. And then, we have a team approach us like, hey, there's an event going on. So, for example, there was an event that I was already, like, I didn't really want to do, CWL London,
Right.
Yeah.
right? and we wanted to send a team there, and it's like the odds of us winning are like nothing, right?
Abysmal.
And people want team pass is like $300 or $400, like it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like if they want hotel, food, compensation, whatever whatever they need, we have to pay
There's
that
an
off.
expense. Yeah, there's
Exactly.
An expense there.
So it's like you're risking, so you're giving all this money away for free basically, but it's for advertisement, right?
Right.
To just show
And
up,
if it's
yeah.
that risk that you do good there, right? So you give them jerseys, right? You do that, they're advertising, Curse Ascension, it's everywhere, and if they do good, it's a good risk.
Yeah.
But it's also a waste of money if like nothing happens out of it.
Well,
Yeah.
that just factors into high risk, high reward, right?
Exactly,
And
100%.
That's the risk that all esports teams take.
That's what you need to
Especially like teams that get upset, like Astralis, who just absolutely got too old,
Ugh.
right? So it's definitely high risk, high reward.
I
But
think the biggest thing when it comes to franchising is that behind the scenes, like, so for example, like Cloud9 in the Overwatch League, they're known as London Spitfire. But as someone who, if I had gotten introduced to the Overwatch League without being aware of that, and I was a huge fan of London Spitfire, I wouldn't know to go find their other teams. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing where, yes, it's easily digestible, like I said before, but it kind of loses that classic, like, org, that kind of feel where it's like, oh, we're killer at this game, or we're killer at, oh shit, that's alright. So it kind of loses that feel of, like, being proud of the different teams, because if it's franchised and it's all over the place, like, that it just doesn't feel like connected almost.
Did you see the CWL jerseys for this year for like Subliners, Huntsman, all that?
I did, yeah.
They're so bad.
I saw. So you know what? I haven't searched them out, but when I did watch live, I watched a few Huntsman games.
Let me see if I can get it here. Actually,
yeah, I mean, you can definitely pull it up. And so when I watched live, like, I wasn't that impressed. But
they're all the same. Like
that doesn't really catch
like
my
that's
eye.
so basic. It doesn't. I don't know what to tell you.
It seems
yeah,
very.
you think like you have all this money and you just can't invest in like
This
a
seems
better,
very
a better looking jersey. Literally all the jerseys look like this, minus
so-
the logo and the color. It's
Yeah,
that
so-
pattern.
So right now we're looking at the LA Gorillas jersey, and it looks copied and pasted design.
$75.99.
So
That too. It's a. Oh my god! Like our jerseys are probably like. I don't even know, to be honest. Like maybe like 55, 60, 65 at most.
now the
But, like there's so much more to it.
now the Overwatch League, I would be interested in. Yeah, see, you guys have a nice
$50.
That's
jersey.
sick. That is dope.
That's a dope design.
That
Yeah.
is dope.
Now the Overwatch League has a that's a steal for $50.
Yeah.
But the
You
Overwatch League,
use code CURSE and you get 1% off.
of course. The Overwatch League, they teamed up with a company called Fanatics, and bro, I was so disappointed as a fan because there was so much.
Isn't that hockey?
I think so. Yo, they blew it. Like,
Bro, if you look at this website, it's exactly Shop NHL. Yeah, Fanatics.
Yo.
Yes, it is Fanatics.
it is Fanatics.
It's exactly NHL's website.
So-
Exactly NHL's
So
website.
the thing is that I'd imagine people are not going to be happy with not only the designs but the quality of the merch as well, because I read up on the quality of the OWL jerseys, and bro, they didn't even feel like jerseys. They felt like T-shirts with like decals on them. And like,
It's
if you're gonna be
probably, like-
selling $80 jerseys, like proprietary jerseys, you need to bring your A game. Like,
And like Fanatics too, I look at it. So I'm the person to buy like real stuff. So, like if you take Supreme for example, like there's fake Supreme, real Supreme. Like I'll buy the real Supreme, this and that. So when I'm looking at like a hockey jersey for example, there's the Fanatics brand and then the Adidas brand.
Right.
yeah.
I'm gonna get the Adidas brand, and like I just find Fanatics so cheap. I mean some stuff is it's fair enough, but like I don't know. I see why it's cheap and all that stuff. Like they could have done so much better.
Yeah, so to bring it back to a little bit of CSGO, me and Samir were discussing how Astralis, who, as I've since learned, was dominant last year, and people were
It's
saying
dominant for a while.
Yeah.
They have
dynasty
very
team,
good.
all this, but let's pull up. They actually just lost their last 2 games. They lost to Complexity 2-0
And Navi.
and Navi 2-0.
Complexity changed their logo. It used to be something so much better than a star.
Yeah, that looks like a knockoff Cowboys.
Dallas
brand.
Cowboys, yeah.
100%.
And Complexity and Navi are playing right now. So on that.
I love watching CS:GO personally.
It's so competitive.
It's just like it can go any direction. Like if you get CT spawn and like, you know, this map's CT dominant, but like T sides win. Like there's just so much stuff that can happen.
Well, thinking about CS:GO, like, let's go back to like Counter-Strike Source, right?
Right.
Counter-Strike Source was huge. So many esports teams. So many esports teams came off of Counter-Strike Source. I think Astralis or
Yeah,
Astralis came off from Source, and when they made the switch to CS:GO, they were like, it's different. Simple, I think Simple was like, it's different. Like I don't like it, but it's just gonna have to be something that I'm gonna have to adjust to.
It's been tolerated.
And what is it? 8 years later, it's just like night and day. One of the biggest esports games in the world.
I think CS:GO has a real international foothold, specifically like in Europe as well.
Yeah.
Because you see, every game has like spheres of influence. So, for example, like I know, obviously League of Legends in Korea and China, next level. Like they're really. I think if you look to the Asian countries, like they're pushing the boundary of what was thought like even possible with esports. Like seeing what was it, the LCS finals, the World Finals, not 2 or 3 years ago.
Dude, not even the first year of LCS was bare bones. It was a LAN game, and now you have full stadiums just sold out.
Yeah,
and that's what I think. Like that's really beautiful about the progression of esports.
Because I think we're seeing I don't even know. Like it's really being solidified. Like the legitimate, like
right,
the reality of the fact that there are millions and millions of people who play video games and millions of people who love to watch competitive video games.
Right.
And going back to like that path to pro that we were talking about, like you can see through every game that they're really trying to make a concrete path. So like for the Overwatch League, that's my forte. Like they call it the 3 tiers of competitive play.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously outside of that, that's amateur and professional. You have the ladder. You
right.
have the game itself,
right.
which is a whole dynamic. But then you go to open division teams, which would be in COD. That would be like locals or like LAN events. And then you have the B League for the Overwatch League, which is all academy teams. And then it's crazy to see, like, I just learned today that League of Legends has academy teams.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know that.
100
Thieves, yeah, 100%.
Cloud9 too, yeah.
I think one of my favorite games right now, I've been like really getting into Rainbow Six.
Oh, Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six competitive scene is
That
massive.
game is insane.
Massive.
I love playing competitive in it. I love watching it. Also, Rocket League I've been playing a little bit too. Really weird to get used to. Like I'm sure like since we've all been playing for the rest of our lives, you guys can relate. Our whole lives, you can relate to this. If you play a new game, you pick up the controller. You're not a complete bot. You know how to somewhat play the game. Rocket League's completely different.
Oh yeah,
the mechanics and like. I found out about drifting like 2 days ago. I didn't know you can drift in the game. Like, there's just so much to it. Like, it's actually crazy.
I think that's one of the coolest things. Like, we've kind of, especially with the rise of battle royales, we're seeing like not only the esports like dynamic expand, but we're also seeing like video games have such a strong foothold in our culture that like there's I forgot what the stat is, but like it's got to be in like the 40s if you count mobile games,
right.
which is huge. Like that's a whole nother conversation, like how mobile games have affected AAA video games, which I would love to have in a second. But bro, so many people play video games or are aware of them, and like I think it's mirrored. So not only are the professional scenes being expounded upon and they're really like growing, but then you see like all the like who thinks of this shit? Like obviously MOBAs have been around, but then you see like something like Rocket League, and it's just like wow, like there really is no bounds. Like people will always think out of the box and
right.
And I feel like back in the day, like for me personally, like I or just like anyone in general, if you were doing like YouTube, so like back in the day, like I used to do YouTube cut comms, right? I have like almost 1,000 subscribers on my personal channel, but I stopped that like 2 or 3 years ago. But I feel like you used to be made fun of for doing this weird stuff, right? It was so like, it was just so weird.
It was niche. It was very
It was just
niche,
like, everyone's like, what? Why
But
are you doing
I think
this?
everyone had that dream as a little kid.
Exactly,
So
but
it's
I
so
was
fun.
succeeding in that. Like, I was making money off YouTube very, very young, and I was doing my thing. I was making YouTube cut comps. I played with phase replays.
You were saying trick shots and shit.
Trick shotting out of the map. MW3 played with replays. I still, he still follows me on Twitter. We're still, but it's just the fact, like, I feel like you just, like, people judge you and just looked at you weird. Like, vlogging. Like, when people used to go out in public and vlog, like, this is so weird. Now it's just like, you got a whole tripod, you got a whole person carrying the camera. Now it's fine. Like, just back then, you just looked at weird. You really were.
I think, going back to what I was going to say before, one of the weirdest things we've seen in the last 10 years is, and hopefully, I personally want to see a major change in this aspect of video games, but the monetization of video games. Right. I mean, we're all 18, we're all adults, we're all legally adults. But I think we're seeing some real, like, predatory monetization, because it's mobile gaming, like, kind of, were the first people to figure out, they put their toe in the water and were like, wait, we're getting away with this shit?
Yeah.
And then, whether it be Ubisoft or EA or fill in the blank, AAA video game developer.
Mobile Fortnite.
Supercell.
Bro, they all realize that as long as they're not getting regulated, they'll take their money to the bank. No dirty
Fortnite's game is technically still in, like, alpha or beta. Or, like, beta.
No, that's
and do you know why?
So is PUBG.
Because
it's so they can pump out their updates quicker. Because if they were published, I'm sure now that they won't matter for them because Fortnite's just so big. But the reason why they're still in beta is so they can constantly push out these crazy events, crazy updates. That's why they're still in beta.
Yeah, I think, like, we were talking earlier about the whole battle pass, like,
that's in every game now. Every game now.
And the analogy that I use with my brother is, like, think about it. When season passes for single player or multiplayer games that actually added a fuck ton of content used to be controversial. Now we have seasonal season passes.
And item shops.
Now that as well, like, I think it's, like, I don't know how aware you guys...
It's not going away.
That's like supply drops back in Advanced Warfare. I usually spent like I spent $600 or $700 on my dad's credit card. Holy shit! Like, my dad was just like, "What are you doing?" And I was just like, "I don't know, but I have the legendary variant now." Like,
of course.
It took me $700, but I got a purple gun. Like,
yeah, I think we're seeing, like, especially it's scary because I have two.
It's just more ways to make money.
I have two nephews. They're very young, and, like, by the time they're, in that 12. 13, that teenage age where they'll be having their own console,
be like
playing
Ninja.
their own games. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, how worse is it gonna get before it gets better? The monetization, because, like, you see, like, I don't know about YouTube, but I never could play 2K games, sports games. Like, I just never got into it.
I'm NHL.
I like
NHL. I'll
Bro,
do
I remember
NHL.
Anecdote. I tried to play NHL, but we turned it on, like, realistic mode, and we didn't understand how offsides.
If you suck at the game, you suck.
We didn't understand how offsides worked in hockey, so we got offsides like 10 times in the first 2 minutes, and we're like, "Fuck this," and just played 2K.
Gotta cross the line first with the puck. That's it. Simple.
Yeah, so I think just seeing where everything's going right now, like, I really think it's going to take government intervention, whether it be... Because, like, one thing I passionately agree with is the percentage on loot boxes. Because if you think about it, like, bro, they could literally make it 0.001%, but as long as they make it seem like it's achievable, like, kids are going to shell out, like you said,
a knife on
CSGO.
A couple months, you guys know COD Mobile and how it blowed up.
Yeah.
They were calling, like, a big controversy because they had Tencent made COD Mobile. They were the same people who made PUBG Mobile, and they had like a loot box, I guess, but it was in a wheel. And they said you could, like, if you keep spending more and more of the in-game...
Your
like,
odds are better.
Yeah, but, like, the odds was stuck at, like, 0.01.
That was like Apex. What, you get, like, a knife or something like that? It was really new, but it was like if you spend $100, you'll get it.
Did they ban loot boxes in the EU? Or
Now, I think it was Denmark. It was something like that.
'Cause
Denmark or
gambling.
Finland. Because I mean, the
It's the
biggest thing I always point to is Rockstar, bro. Because Rockstar is like
Oh.
the man behind the curtain. Like they, if you look at Rockstar's development cycle before GTA 5 came out and GTA 5 Online launched, they released a project every year and 2 projects every other year. They have since released Red Dead 2 and only Red Dead 2. And GTA 5 came out like what, 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And they immediately, I mean, I might be mistaken, but I think I'm right. GTA 5 is the most profitable private video game IP in history. They make like
billions.
They make like $1 billion a year. Because, and if you think about it from a practical standpoint, like from a computer standpoint, it blows my mind. Bro, because $20 to get given $1 million, like, of the digital currency.
That sounds like a steal.
Bro, it literally, if you tried to explain that to someone 50 years ago, they would be like, wait, so people are just getting robbed? Because literally all it is that you spend $20 for them to change a single value in a database, and kids happily just shell out.
I know.
Well, that's what the...
I'll sell my real life house to get the best apartment in GTA.
Exactly, like, and it's like people, I think the biggest thing was they came out with, I think it was called the Diamond Casino update. And I don't know if you guys heard about this.
I play it. I still play it.
The day it came out, they released it internationally. It was automatically banned in like 60 out of 180
because
countries.
Of gambling.
Because it was literally just gambling.
That's the thing too about GTA. So before Heist even came out, they were teasing that for how long?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it must have been like 2 years between the game GTA 5 coming out and the first online Heist coming out.
Exactly.
That was a long time.
So when it dropped, so like obviously the player count went down eventually. Everyone started playing Fortnite, whatever was out at the time.
Yeah.
They said Heist are released, everyone gets back on, right? And then new cars come out. People will buy shark cards and then buy the cars, stuff like that. They'll make their money.
Yeah, so like I think whether it be loot boxes, like the new battle passes, we're seeing all across video games, just people being taken advantage of, honestly. Because have you guys ever heard? There's an infamous video where it was like an insiders meeting at like EA, and they refer to. Have you guys ever heard the term whales?
No.
So for people at home, they call in the insiders in the video game industry call major spenders whales, because I think it's like 90% of whether it be loot box sales, anything like that, skin sales, they come from the top 1% of spenders, because it's literally like an addiction. Like even if it's gambling, like loot boxes, most of the money is coming from a small subset of people who don't know when to quit.
Right.
And like, because average people, like Overwatch, I have hundreds of hours in that game. I have never bought in a loot box, but I know for a fact that there are people who have literally spent like thousands of dollars.
League of Legends is not innocent at all when it comes to loot boxes.
So League of Legends, when I first became aware of their monetization, like I didn't, obviously like the biggest argument people use is it's cosmetic, it doesn't affect the game, but more and more I feel like you're seeing like just
pay to win
and horrible. Like, don't get me wrong. If you love a game and you want to spend money on it, more than the money that you've already spent to buy it, be my guest. But when you see people just getting blatantly ripped off, like, the biggest thing I can point to is, I don't know how aware you guys are of the whole Fallout.
The Fallout, like, all the games?
What is it, Fallout 76?
Yeah.
Like, bro, that should be illegal to release a game that
It's
unfinished.
not finished.
And I think they actually got I'm not fully educated on it, but I know there was a class action lawsuit against Bethesda, and rightfully so, because like they released the unfinished game. Like my favorite video, this guy Joseph Anderson, he does like 3-hour long form video essay reviews, and he made a video that was 4 hours long called The 1001 Bugs of Fallout 76, and he documented just himself 1,000 fucking bugs. Like he was saying, it got to a point where it's like, what's a bug and what's a feature? Like you can't even tell the difference. And so like they came out with, after a year after being arguably the most disastrous game launch we've ever seen in last decade. Like, can you even think of a game? Maybe like
Anthem.
There was like a Batman Anthem, and then like I think it was like
No Man's Sky.
The third Arkham Asylum game like was unplayable for the first week, but then they fixed it and the game was all right. Like Fallout 76 might have been like one of the most disastrous game launches we've ever seen. And for them to have the balls a year later to come out with $100 a year premium service that added not only a pay to win aspect after 2 years from the game's announcement, vehemently saying like we will not add pay to win. And then obviously the game was a shit show, and then they needed to make their money back, so they added pay to win.
Yeah, all companies are doing that.
They also the 2 features, private worlds, because Fallout 76 was a private game. It was a public game, like an always online thing, so you were always interacting with players. They didn't even work.
Yeah, wasn't that
they launched private servers. They didn't even work. So like they're just brazenly like. It almost seems like some of the shit that these companies do should be illegal.
It's
or
like
should be regulated.
It's like Call of Duty. Oh, we're not doing supply drops in this game. We're not doing this and that in this game. Or it was. I think Black Ops 4. There's supposed to be no supply drops or like no items, like whatever it was. Nothing you pay to do or get, and that was it. Like Advanced Warfare was the most pay-to-win COD ever.
Oh, yeah.
Pay-to-win, and that's why I spent so much money, because if you get, like, the Speakeasy or whatever, like, the most overpowered assault rifle, like the bow, like, you win. You're winning your gunfights, you're getting those score streaks, and you're winning.
See, so, like, why wouldn't you buy it? Right?
Exactly, and that's why they're making so much money. That was the problem. Like, the cosmetics, I like, is fine. Like, for example, today I bought the E-United, like, car wrap for Rocket League. Like, that's fine. That's not an in-game advantage.
Now, one of the coolest things I point to, like I was saying before, was I know with the LCS, like I'm not the biggest fan of League of Legends, but they do a thing where, correct me if I'm wrong, Samir, but they release a skin, a series of skins for the esports league, and then that money goes back into the prize pool for that same league. I know they do that with Dota as well.
Yeah,
right?
IG won, and they got a set of skins. They got for each of the champions they played. So that's what they do, and that's honestly sick. But the thing about League is it's not pay to win. You know why? Because you can only buy champions in League. Yeah. You can only buy champions in League and cosmetics. You can't really buy any abilities.
I know Modern Warfare just dropped all the pro leagues, Subliners, Rucker, like all the teams got their own shirts and like Call of Duty now.
Oh wow. Oh, you're talking about in
the game, like
in the game.
Every team has like, I think it's like, I don't even know what it is. On any character you can pick, like the logo is on the front and back. It's like a shirt over your player. It's weird,
so
but
like
it looks good.
One of my favorite implementations of that was the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League, they have a in-browser tab for the esports Overwatch League, and you can find every skin for every character, or every team skin for every character. And when you buy it, you actually get 2 skins, because you get the home and the away version. Dope. And seeing the implementation of that, like, I think they did a really good job, because you can rep your team, and not only that, like, it's specialized, like you were saying, in League, you can rep just the single character that guy was going off with in the world's, like, championship. You can rep, like,
you can rep that skin.
It be, right. Like, the first one I bought was a Tracer skin. Mm-hmm. It was the Philly Tracer skin, because the guy Carpe, who played Tracer in Season 1, was a monster. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I want people to know that, like, that's my guy. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think, like, it's kind of being all just back in that viewpoint of esports evolving. Like, we see the integration of, like, repping your teams in the game itself, and then, like, the whole community that's being built around esports, like, everything is just going in such a massive direction.
They're doing great. I mean, esports is just, with the franchising, like, it's all money moves now. A lot of people are just thinking about is money, how we're going to make it, what are we going to do to please everyone, and...
Well, these big companies are really only coming to esports because of money opportunities.
Oh yeah, but that will absolutely like push the boundary of what they're capable.
I kind of want to get into since we're talking about money and all that stuff, like the sponsors. kind of back on that, like FaZe got with Nissan. That's that's a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we buy cars, we do that stuff, and now people that are sitting here doing cranking 90s on Fortnite are now partnered with them. Like Team Liquid got partnered with Marvel. That's insane.
It's actually making athletes.
Captain
Making
America
athletes look like
jerseys and whoever else, you know. That shit, that's insane. BMW's with Cloud9.
Yeah.
Which
a
is
luxury
insane.
car,
That is
car
sick.
brand. Like that's
That is
Like
amazing.
that is nuts to me. So for personally, like my team, like we're getting our own custom chairs, like our own gaming chairs, right?
Yeah.
That to me is insane. But like FaZe is getting their own custom FaZe cars.
And
Yeah,
100
that's-
Thieves
that's
got their
awesome.
own.
100 like
facility.
Cash App is amazing. Like that to me is such a brilliant sponsorship. All they need to do is say something, right? So for the 100 Thieves podcast, are like Cash App's where the cash is, you know, whatever they say, and they're giving them money for promoting that. It's like David Dobrik. You watch David Dobrik?
I'm
Yeah.
aware of him.
See,
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you just say SeatGeek and he gets hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah, because
just for saying it.
because I feel like kind of a little off track, but whether it be esports and video games or content creators, traditional media is paying attention now. They realize that, oh shit, like the
This is
days
big.
of, so for example, like the term cord cutters, like I obviously, like there are people moving away from traditional television, but just the other night I was watching something with my family and there was something on the news. Now, as long as I can remember being 18, you could rewind live TV.
Mhm.
And I tried to do it the other night.
You can't do it
And they
anymore.
got rid of it.
Yeah, you can't
Like,
do it
come
anymore.
on, dude. Like, think about the ridiculous aspect of that. Like, your traditional media, you already cost X amount of dollars a month. You need the hardware, you need a line from the street, and you're getting rid of features.
Right.
Like, I think they kind of already see the writing on the wall. Like,
Yeah.
digital media, whether it be streaming shit or, I mean, that's where it's all going. I mean, I think in the
Bro,
same way,
cable is literally dying.
in the same way that Amazon is dominating the at-home
They're
shopping
they're
experience.
dominating everywhere.
They're dominating
Stores
everything.
are going out of business now. Come
Well,
on.
I think YouTube and Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, are really gonna put like traditional broadcasting out of business.
Well, because it's practical. It's just like, you know, why pay like monthly for ads or whatever to see a movie?
Well,
Why
and
not
that's
just
why
buy-
Mixer is buying these streamers, right? Mixer's owned by Microsoft. Microsoft has, again, a good amount of money, like Amazon, so they have the money to pay these streamers, you know, to get onto Mixer and be like, hey, promote us too. You need a war. It can't be a monopoly.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
and-
why they're doing it.
And the coolest thing about these new companies that are coming along is that people are not really beholden to like whether it be just Twitch. Like for example, like for the first 2 years of the Overwatch League, Twitch owned the rights, the broadcasting rights.
Mm-hmm.
Now I tolerated it. Twitch is a fine service, but if you look at the Overwatch League statement saying that they are switching over to YouTube gaming, bro, live rewind is like within the first 10 words because that's the most significant thing. You can't rewind on Twitch. So it's like...
I didn't even think of it like
yeah,
that.
isn't
Yeah,
that crazy? You
Yo,
can't
well,
rewind
okay. Technically, you can on Twitch, but
How?
it's like a pain in the ass. So while they're streaming, right? They're streaming. If you click on videos on the top and then you click on like their current stream, like you can do it like that. But that's a pain in the ass. But
Yeah,
like
that's just
YouTube is so much
inconvenient.
easier.
Oh, yeah.
And bouncing back what you said before, on like companies are noticing these things like with sponsorships and stuff like that. So I'll talk to you briefly about this. Like me and Vitamin Water.
Yeah.
So Vitamin Water. Right, I'm sponsored with them, stuff like that.
That's dope.
Yeah, so they're doing this. It's like a whole media thing, right? It's for like looks, stuff like that. Like they sent all of us like care packages in the mail with Vitamin Water, shirts, and like hoodies, all that stuff. And it's just like these companies want to get involved with however they can and market like their best way they can.
Yeah, because they, I think, like I said before, like they're all paying attention. Like whether it be, I think streaming, obviously due to the technology of it, like streaming was never possible before, like a decade ago.
Right.
But I think we're seeing like people just want things as soon as possible and
Dude.
as the highest quality as possible.
Legendary NBA player, Rick Fox. He played with Kobe, rest in peace. he made an esports team for League, an LCS team, even though
Really?
they're dog shit. But like,
So
you
like
know,
you see
see
going back to
significance.
investment, like that paper that I wrote, they were say I remember, I think this was like halfway through senior year, and there was around $1 billion of investment in esports in 2017 or
Wow.
18. Bro, that number is expected
That's
to be.
astronomical.
Oh, this year is probably.
The
Huge.
2020 expectation was, I want to say, 3.5 or 4.5 billion dollars.
It has to be easily, because all the franchising teams too, they need those investments. No one's paying $13 million out of pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
So like that's
Well,
it's
I
ridiculous
think
numbers.
one of the most awesome things I saw was going back to what we were talking about before with Nate Shot. Like, his Series A funding picked up $40 million of investment. Like, you're seeing investment from like Cash App, bro, like Drake.
I think they got $100 million just for the
Oh, bro,
the
they-
house alone or
Yeah,
the
the
facility,
facility.
right? It
Bro,
was
like, I wouldn't put it past them. Like, they really have marketed themselves. And going back to like what you were saying with Supreme and like quality of brands, like I think the coolest thing I've seen from 100 Thieves is not them beating Optic in the LCS or whatever, like their competitive like accomplishments, but what they've done culturally. Like, I had a
their
good
apparel
friend,
drops are insane.
our good friend Mike from Kellenberg, shouts out to Mike. He is a huge fan of 100 Thieves, and bro, he has all the merch, he has all
Yeah.
the fire hoodies, and he's up on that shit, like refresh, like let me get that, because they know that scarcity equals
Yep.
like popularity.
Right. We gotta bring him in here.
And there's yeah, definitely you can come through.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of whether it be like Supreme, like we were saying, but like people just want quality shit, and like they know, oh, they're only dropping 200 pairs of fill in the blank, like they must be high quality.
Yeah.
And so like people are kind of coming around to that.
And that's how a lot of people are starting to drop their apparel. So, like, we're starting to do a thing where we have our esports apparel, right? Now we're transitioning into, we're going to start having these drops, right? And it's a big thing to plan, because you need to get the designs done, get them sent to you, get photographers, take pictures of that, but also have next month planned out too, get
Yeah.
that shipped out to you. Like,
That's
it's a
huge.
constant loop, right? And that you need to do limited drops, make it seem hype, and all that. Like Full Send, do you know Full Send with like Nelk Boys and all
Yeah,
that?
Boys.
That's how
absolutely.
they're dropping it too. They have
Our
limited
boy,
hoodies.
our boy Donnie,
Yeah,
massive
yeah.
fan. He literally said he like emptied his bank account
Yeah.
to get all that
Boy,
shit,
yeah.
because they really just foster a community of passionate fans that are trying to get that merch like as soon as
Exactly.
possible.
Exactly.
And I think going back to like the Fanatics conversation, like I think COD World League and the Overwatch League and any other esport that is producing their merch through Fanatics is immediately knocked down a peg in my
Yeah.
mind, because seeing and reading like all of the complaints and shit, like
It's like you do
I would
better.
never like
Right.
exactly like I would rather buy a third party or like non-involved
Right.
merch than get something that I'm not.
I
happy
also
Right.
can tell you that it's most likely cheap, because a lot of, like, not a lot, but there's a good amount of the COD players that are, you know, big, heavier set, whatever. When they walk out with those jerseys on, it just doesn't look good.
It
It
doesn't
looks so
look good.
tight. They look so uncomfortable wearing
Yeah.
it. Like, it's tied up here, like up in their chest area, and it's just like, you know, jerseys used to just dangle off you, whatever. And like 100 Thieves with the baseball jerseys, that was brilliant.
That was a
I thought
sick
that was
idea.
great. But like, I don't know if they're mandated to wear these jerseys, but they suck. Like, it may be a hoodie. A hoodie would be 10 times better to
Oh,
wear.
yeah.
I mean, it gets hot as hell on stage, don't, you know, but it just doesn't look good. They don't look comfortable wearing them, and the design is terrible too. So honestly, with you saying that it's cheap, like, I could definitely look at the bigger set players and be like, they are not comfortable wearing them.
Yeah, I think like from like a viewer aspect, what is that? Without even having to do the research of like, oh, people are saying this on Reddit about, oh, like the stickers and the decals are peeling, whatever complaints that they had. It's like, if you can see whether or not someone enjoys what they're wearing, and like
Yeah.
most of the time, at least in the Overwatch League, I never got the vibe that they were proud of repping those jerseys, because they knew that they were lackluster jerseys. But personally, like, I can pull up right now the new jerseys for the Overwatch
See, look,
League.
it looks exactly like the Call of Duty website. They're all the same. Look how it's laid out. Click on the CW, the second tab up there. No, over here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the second tab over here. Exactly the same. Shop, leagues, teams, schedule.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's literally
All everything's starting to look the same now.
Yeah, so they've really streamlined.
There's a variety.
A lot of
and these
UI.
and these subliners and like all the teams now, they don't even have their own websites. They're
Yeah,
based
that-
off of here.
really?
That was
They're subdomains off of here, so it'd be subliners.
cheap.
Yeah, so it's
That's so
subliners.callofdutyleague.com.
Now, yo, you know what's funny? I never even thought about it like that, but when I first did that and I first checked that with the Overwatch League, it didn't take me to an individual site, and I was so surprised that I was like, how? So I think that might bring it all the way back. I think that might be a side effect of franchising, because if you go, for example, like I was saying before, I'll use another example. The San Francisco Shock in Overwatch is an NRG esports team.
So is the Huntsman.
But if you go to, I'm sure if you go on the CWL website, it brings you to the subdomain, like self-contained within the league. So it's not.
So it's shock.owl.com.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of, I'm sure the orgs are taking that trade-off of, well, you know, maybe we might lose our name recognition as a general esport team, but or an org, I should say. But I guess if they're making those decisions, those with billions of dollars behind those leagues, they must think that's the best thing.
But listen,
for them.
if like let's say like what's it called? So let's say the Huntsmen win this year, right? They get millions of dollars. That goes into NRG's pocket, right? NRG's pocket, and they can send it out to San Francisco Shocks. They can Fortnite, like they can invest that into other places. So it is smart. You know, it is going back to NRG, but they're not getting the recognition of NRG anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So
that's
the thing
problem.
is that kind of like connection, that kind of like
Behind the scenes
word association of like, oh, NRG runs their NRG, because back in the day it used to just only, for example, like Optic.
Let's
right?
go NRG. Let's go Optic.
Exactly.
Let's go San Francisco.
And let's go, Chicago.
It's
exactly.
weird. It's just
so
weird.
it's definitely like we're in a new age of. But I think like going back to what I was saying, like it's more digestible. Like for someone, people like we're 3 young kids, grew up on video games, grew up on esports too.
Right.
For someone who's like, the craziest thing that I saw was the OWL Overwatch League being on ABC, like
Really?
Channel 7.
It was?
Yeah, on the finals. It was on.
shit.
It was on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
When, last year?
Yeah.
Esports is on cable.
And the craziest thing was that, like, if I was thinking, like, obviously, if you're from New York, you see, oh, like, the New York XL, like, I can support them.
Right.
But if you see Optic Gaming or
I'm definitely-
E United, like,
definitely gonna watch
that kind of, like, first view and first opinion might not be as, like, as positive if you can't relate.
Right.
So, like, I think franchising is definitely going to have a
I also
positive
thought with franchising
impact.
too that you can't use the team names. So that's why I found it weird that there was Atlanta FaZe, Optic Gaming. I didn't know. I didn't
think that seems counterintuitive to me as well.
Wait,
Because
what do you mean?
now the Optic team in the CWL is literally called
Optic Gaming and like FaZe is Atlanta FaZe.
Yeah, right.
But
in
like
your
New York
face.
subliners, they're not, or like
Well,
Huntsman for example. Why
it's
aren't they
not the
called
NRG
NRG? It's
Huntsman.
Huntsman, exactly.
So, is it Atlanta like a sub of FaZe Clan, or is it just an entirely...
No, so it's FaZe Clan. It's owned by FaZe Clan. The members are FaZe Clan employees, but it's franchised as
okay.
that team. So I
Okay.
think
I
like
just thought that was the rule. Like you can't have the name like that.
because it
So
does seem counterintuitive. Like why?
I'm sure they paid more money for that. I'm
I would hope so.
positive.
Because if not, then like, bro, NRG should have put their name in it for that recognition.
Unless it's just because Optic and FaZe are what everyone looks up to.
Well, I
can
think-
see that
I
being a
think
reason,
growing
but
up
it
and
kind of
seeing-
sucks.
growing up and seeing like, well, like, bro, we said all the way back at the beginning of the shit, like, I think Optic Gaming, it's kind of sad to look at. Like, they really are just like a
Optic
shell.
Gaming is it's Huntsman now, but
yeah, no, exactly.
you can't root for Optic because Optic. I don't even know who's on Optic
Bro,
right now.
I don't know.
I know Mud Dog who was on 100 Thieves. He gets so much hate, and I feel bad. He did so much for 100 Thieves last year in Black Ops 4, and now he does whatever he does with Optic. He just gets hate, and
Yeah.
it's so sad because he was so successful in 100T.
Yeah. So we're coming up on an hour. I think we should wrap this shit up.
Yes,
but
sir.
we're really at a prime time right now. So we're at a convergence of tons of different leagues. We've got the Blast series for CS:GO, the Overwatch League, the LCS, the CWL. I mean, we're really in like the prime time of esports,
Right.
and we're only gonna see more. Like you were saying before, the Rocket
League just started
Rocket
yesterday.
League just started up, and so yeah, we're it's like the golden age.
We're in it.
The boundary is only
Rainbow
being
Six
pushed.
is like mid-season or just kind of starting.
I used to follow Rainbow Six
Rainbow,
for a
I
long
love
time.
Rainbow.
And so, yeah, let's see whether this ends up being weekly, bi-weekly. We'll figure it out. Hopefully, we can get some audio, visual as well. But hope you guys enjoyed.